Hey folks, welcome to streamingchurch.tv. This is our live video blog, and we do this usually every Thursday evening. We talk about streaming related questions. It can be dealing with computers, lighting, sound, streaming video, even website stuff. My name is Phil Thompson. I'm the executive director here at streamingchurch.tv, and we are a company that helps churches as well as other ministries and small businesses stream their services or their product online. And we're so glad you decided to spend a little bit of time with us. Now, we're doing this live here today, but we are going to archive it later. So chances are you might be watching us on YouTube or in our video archive files. So we're glad you're here. And we do this every Thursday. And today we're going to talk a little bit about computer issues, computer problems, because all of us from time to time run into that. And my very special guest today is Dan Patagoni. Dan is with Fireproof Computer Service.
That's right.
Did I get that right?
You got it right.
I hope so. I've known Dan for a little while here. Dan's a good friend of ours here, and he's helped me with my computers and even helped my church. And so what we're going to do today is a lot of times we get questions as a company regarding streaming about, well, what's the best computer to have if you want to stream, or I've got problems with my computer. And so we thought today what we might do is spend a little bit of time answering your questions regarding problems that you might be having with your computer. And it could be regarding streaming video or not. You don't have to talk about streaming video tonight if you don't want to. So we want to get to some of your questions. If you're watching on the streamingchurch.tv platform here, you can feel free to type in your questions in the chat. If you're watching this on Facebook where you don't have chat, or the iPhone, you can send us a quick email, support@streamingchurch.tv. Again, if you're watching this at a later date, again, you can send us email questions. We'll answer them even if it's 2 years from now. It's kind of weird. It's like Back to the Future. But support@streamingchurch.tv is the actual email address, or you can always text us. My text number is area code 520-302-4850. And I'll repeat that one more time. That's 520-302-4850. So you can text us as well. All right, so Dan, it's good to have you here. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, it's great to have you here. I want to go ahead and let you for a moment just talk a little bit about what you do. You have a company called Fireproof Computer Services. What's your website address?
Fireproofpc.com.
Fireproofpc.com. All right. And you help people with computers, but you also do websites too, right?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. So something to keep in mind, folks, if you've got a ministry or a church or small business, not only can Dan help you with your computer issues, but he can also help you with websites. Now, chances are people might be watching this other parts of the country or the world. You can still help them though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And how do you do that if you're not in the same city?
Well, it's really simple. Everybody has an idea of what they want their site to basically look like. Okay. So we take that idea and we build it, and we build upon the idea. And because you can see a website from anywhere in the world, it doesn't matter where I'm at or where they're at. Mm-hmm. We can get it to you and get it up and running.
But you can even help fix some possible computer problems even in different parts of the country. You do that through sharing screen and share my PC. Do you use that one, or what do you use?
We use TeamViewer, which is a remote desktop type of application that allows us to get into your computer and fix problems for you. The nice thing about the TeamViewer is that the client side that we give to the clients only lets us in with a username and a password that they have to give us.
Okay. All right. So cool. So people, you could actually help people no matter where they're at. Okay. So questions for Dan tonight. If you have any, we've got a few here in advance. Let me pull them up here. Got actually quite a few here. Let's just start with the first one that was earlier today from Julie. Julie says, I hear a lot about 64-bit operating systems. My PC has a 32-bit. Should I upgrade, and why?
Well, there's a lot that depends with it. As far as 64-bit versus 32, if you're not doing a lot of heavy, intensive application processing, things like that, video processing and whatnot, you're probably really not going to notice it. However, 64-bit, you can use more than 4 gigs of memory. So you're kind of limited on what you can use with a 32-bit system. So again, it really kind of depends on how heavy you're using your computer for it to really make a noticeable difference.
All right, and so, you know, since we're talking a lot about streaming video, which is what streamingchurch.tv, so you would obviously recommend a 64-bit system
Absolutely.
for anybody who wants to stream video. And even, let's take it to some people that may be just kind of tuning in here, logging on through curiosity's sake. Gamers, if you're running games.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Again, 64-bit.
Definitely, because you're going to want to push as much memory, especially running a game.
Okay.
Gamers want as much memory, as much power, as much processor as possible, and you can do that with this 64-bit system.
Okay. So I'm assuming, all right, so and probably when we talk about streaming video, you know, computer specs and system requirements and all that good stuff, honestly, the gaming thing's probably pretty much very similar in a lot of ways, because you're pushing a lot of data, a lot of information, so you want to have a strong, healthy computer. So a lot of the stuff we're talking about is going to apply to people that like gaming. Okay, like my son, for instance. I don't do a lot of gaming. Do you do gaming?
I do a little
Do
bit.
you? Okay, well, we'll get into that later. All right. So, so you would recommend that if Julie's not really streaming, if she's just using her computer for some basic stuff like email and basic chores and stuff, 32-bit's okay.
Yeah, 32-bit would be fine.
Yeah.
Because you figure if you're going to go from a 32-bit to a 64-bit, you've got to buy that license key. You know, and you're talking, if you're talking Windows 7, you know, you're looking at what, $100?
Okay.
So is it worth it for you?
Okay. All right. Okay. Good. Most of the new computers now are 64-bit, though, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the nice thing is they're coming out with 64-bit.
Okay. All right. Here's a question from Mary Kay. How do I defrag my Mac? Now, I know you're a big fan of Macs. I'm being sarcastic, maybe, I don't know, but you know, defrag is something that we probably should get into with our PCs, because I don't think enough people defrag, and we should probably talk about defragging. So first of all, let's bring it over to the PC side of defragging, and what's the other thing? You do your defrag. What other maintenance should you do on a computer to keep it healthy?
You want a tune-up. I mean, computers are sort of like cars.
Okay.
You got to get them tuned up once in a while.
Okay, so how? Tell me first of all the defrag, and we'll get to Mary Kay's question about her Mac. But how you on defrag? There's a program on your PCs if you don't have a Mac PC, and you can hit defrag. So what does that do, and how often should you do it?
Well, the PCs have a built-in program, and what that basically does is, as you write to the hard drive, it kind of writes in type of a serial, one after another type of order. Well, as you go back and start deleting certain files, you've got holes now. And so when it writes and gets to the end of the drive, it comes back and starts over again. So what happens is it fills those holes first. And after time, you've got data all over the place.
Okay.
And what defragging does is it takes the files, puts them all together. So when it's going to look for the file, it looks right where the file is instead of looking all over the place. So that's why it'll speed it up a little bit, because it's not having to seek and put all the pieces together. They're all right here.
Okay. Donna, we're going to get to your question about 64-bit in just a second. So continuing on with the defragging thing, how often should you defrag?
It really varies how much you use the PC, how much you're writing, how much you're deleting. So again, it matters how much you use it, but recommend usually check it out at least once a month.
Okay, at least once a month, you would say? All right.
And you can use that program, you can do two things. You can defrag and you can analyze. So you can just hit analyze and it'll show you how it's looking.
Okay. So, all right, so you should defrag at least once a month, depending on how active you are. But what else should you do as far as maintenance for your regular PC? Is defrag enough?
Oh no, defrag's just the icing on the cake.
Okay.
No. For a tune-up, some of the things we'll do is we go and clean some of the cache out, because that builds up over time. Every time you go to a web page, it caches things, and it's designed to where if you go back to the web page again, it makes it faster. It pulls up the page faster because you're pulling up the cache. But over time, you've got this huge file of cache.
I don't have that problem, by the way. I don't have much cache.
You don't have much cache? So your PC's broke then.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. All right. So, but when you say clean the cache out, that's something the average person can do, right?
You can do it, yeah.
Okay.
There's ways, I'd have to show you really to get into it in detail, but you can clean out the cache, clean out the temp files and whatnot. We go a little bit more than that, a little bit deeper, and a few other little things.
We being your company. Right? And
Correct,
by the way, if
yeah.
you just joined us, Dan Pataconi with Fireproof Computer Services with us. I'm Phil Thompson. We generally talking about streaming, but computers are obviously a big part of streaming, and a lot of times people have issues with their computers, and that's why we're getting into this. So if you have a question for Dan about computer-related thing, we can play Stump the Man here, Dan the Man here, and we can see if we can stump you. So, all right, so defragging is something that the average person can do. What about anything else the average Joe can do? I mean, I know you're going to get in there and do a lot of stuff, and that's good. People probably should do that. But what else should they do to get a more efficient computer that somebody like me can do?
Somebody like you?
Yeah. All right, let's rephrase that. Like the average person can do.
Well, defragging and cleaning out the cache is
Okay.
going to be something that the average person can very easily do. You know, but when if you're talking hardware, upgrading the memory, things like that, the average person, you could do it. It's not really recommended. You run into issues of you could end up statically electrocuting the motherboard, which it doesn't take much to fry that whole board.
Now you're scaring me. Okay. All right. Well, let's get to Mary Kay's question about defragging the Mac. Okay, Mac's a different animal,
Correct.
different operating system, different machine. Can you even defrag a Mac?
You can.
Okay.
We don't normally work on Macs,
Okay.
but we know enough to give you a little bit of point you in the right direction per se. So you can defrag the Mac. Usually you got to use the third-party software. You know, there's one called Disk Warrior. There's another one called iDefrag.
Okay.
Those are some of the more recommended ones for the Mac.
So basically, a person with a Mac would have to download some software to be able to
Correct.
defrag. Okay.
Correct.
But why doesn't Mac have that ability, like, you know, the PCs? I mean, do Macs really do they not need to be defragged?
They actually kind of automatically defrag files.
Okay.
More smaller scale files, smaller size files. It's around less than 20 megabytes. They'll just automatically defrag those. And that's going to be the biggest portion of the files that are on your PC anyways.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Okay, if you have a question for us, if you're watching on the streamingchurch.tv platform, feel free to type in a question here. If you're watching on something else like Facebook and you don't have that ability, you can email us support@streamingchurch.tv, and we'll grab your email and try to answer a question. Or if you're watching it at a later time here, you can do the same. Okay, so questions here. What have we got? I want to go back to Don's question here. We were talking earlier about 64-bit versus 32. So Don said, other than software, what do you need for a 64-bit system? I guess that's his question. Did you see that there?
No, I was scrolling up to look at
it.
it.
A little bit on chat. Other than software, Don Young says, with you, I don't think you typed this right, Don. What do you need for a 64-bit system? So basically, you're looking at.
Is he referring to the hardware, you think?
So. I think that's what he's looking at.
Okay.
I mean, you're going to have to. You can't just convert your own computer to a 64, can you?
You can. All you got to do is install a 64-bit operating system.
Okay, so you have to download
everything's been moving for the longest time. Processors, everything's been getting 64-bit ready.
Right.
So everything's there hardware-wise.
Okay.
All you need is the operating system. As long as the hardware is 64-bit capable, just install 64-bit OS and you'll be good to go.
Okay. How would you know if the hardware's capable? How would you know that off the top of your head?
All the newer CPUs are 64-bit capable.
Okay.
You know, so you don't have to worry about that. There's a way to look it up, list your hardware list and everything.
Okay.
It's not really just something you can just click and do. But
All right.
if you have a newer computer, you're good within 4 years or so.
Okay. All right.
You're
Cool.
good.
All right. Let's move on.